There's also a movie that's coming out in theaters July 1st. This movie stars Jessica Chastain, and and it also stars Ray Fiennes. Yes, it's our featured review for Cinematics, and I apologize, listeners, for putting this all the way to the back. Maybe this should have actually been in the front. This is 117 minutes.
Should have though.
Yeah, don't start with me, Eric Holmes, with this. Okay, here's the thing. Maybe you should start with me on this. Anyways, David and Joe Henninger. They are a couple. They're played by Ray Fiennes and Jessica Chastain. They travel to Morocco. They're out in the Moroccan desert. They're going there because they're attending a party of one of their close friends. One of their close friends is played by Matt Smith. Some of you may have seen Matt Smith in that scene-stealing performance in, what is it, Morbius? Morbius, he was recently seen in Morbius. Anyways, Matt Smith's character, he's the owner of a villa out in the middle of this Moroccan desert. On the way to the party, Ray finds his character, David, is driving really fast, and he hits a kid. He hits a kid on the road, and he and his wife, they bring back the kid, the body of the kid. I believe they bring it back, but the body is back. It actually bringing the corpse back to the villa leads to a whole just a domino effect. First of all, in a superficial level, the party is spoiled. Maybe the party is spoiled, or maybe this entire group of people in the party, they're just so rich beyond belief and so entitled that the death of a youth in Morocco doesn't really affect them. That would be interesting. By the way, Caleb Landry Jones also stars in this movie as the lover of the owner of the villa, again played by Matt Smith. That is the premise of this film. Ray finds his character again, David. The whole movie deals with, is David going to accept his actions of hitting that kid and killing him, of that manslaughter situation? Because what happens is he has to make it's a moral decision. Does he go back with the father of the child and admit that what he did was wrong, or does he try to, like a lot of probably well-to-do people, does he try to skirt the issue and not have any accountability whatsoever? Also starring in the movie is Christopher Abbott, who Bruce Perky really loves from that movie called what, Bruce? What movie do you love Christopher Abbott in?
Possessor and
Yes.
Piercing.
Yeah, Possessor and Piercing, two P's for Christopher Abbott. He plays sort of a layabout American who is well-to-do, and he's an American who starts trying to put the moves on Jessica Chastain's character. That's it. And it's directed and penned by John Michael McDonagh. You might have seen some of his other movies. He directed this movie, Cavalry, and also The Guard with Don Cheadle. I remember one of my best friends, Deandra, she called me right after watching Cavalry, and she said, "Greg, why did you make me watch this movie? This is the first movie I ever walked out on." And Cavalry is one of my favorite films from the year. So I have my own thoughts on this movie, which is based, by the way, on Lawrence Osborne's novel, The Forgiven. Let's start with Eric Holmes. Your thoughts on The Forgiven? Does it work? Does it suck? What is it?
Well, first of all, this is really funny in parts. The acting's really good. It looks good. I wasn't on board with this at all. Like this was a clock watcher for me. I was like, how much? 10 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got another 5 minutes left. The movie's over, and there's this just didn't work for me. That said, I think it will work for a lot of people. I'm wondering, it's weird because like all the individual pieces of this movie, first of all, Caleb Landry Jones, he's freaking awesome in everything, except for the X-Men movie because he was like had 2 lines or whatever. But what have we seen with him? The Finch, he did the voice of the robot in that. He was in Knit Ram, which Knit Ram, watch that movie. That'll depress the hell out of you, but it's good. And he's great in this. In fact, everyone's great in this. It's like the individual pieces are all, it seems like it should work, but for me, it did not. And I can't really explain why. I just wasn't on board with this at all throughout the entire movie.
Bruce Perky.
I have a similar reaction to this. Once again, all the acting is good, all the actors are good. To me, it's the script on this movie. The problem is this: it's like this is a movie that's basically saying like, here you've got all these entitled colonialist white people kind of acting terrible in a land that's not theirs, basically tourists, and just not paying attention to the actual people around them. And I think the movie is supposed to be about that, but the perspective is still from the point of view of the rich white fucks. And sure, and you have two movies too going on too. You have rich white fuck going off to, like, I guess.
Oh wait, we have to.
Oh,
We have
He's
to cut
looking
that.
at
We have to
this.
cut that.
He's
Yeah.
I'll start back. Okay. So I'm kind of similar to Eric on
Yeah.
this one. I liked all the actors. I liked the performances, but I really didn't like the script. And the problem I had with it is that it kind of is taking the point of view of these colonial people, white people that are like entitled, and, they're kind of belittling the people, not even hardly treating the people around them as people from the area, to the point that when he's killed the child of one of these people, has to go off and I guess kind of
Alert! Bruce is about to
alert.
give a bad
Bruce is about
review.
to use bad language. So anyway, we have two stories, right? We have the one guy going off to kind of, I guess, learn how to be a better person by helping bury the body of the person that he was responsible for killing, and then on the other side you have the party continuing. And as I was watching this whole movie, I was like, what is the point? Like, what are we supposed to get from this? And I know Eric was kind of torn too. Like, well, what is wrong with this movie? I think it's perspective. I think we're staying with the white entitled people, and honestly, it's not their story. They are obviously not in tune and are a problem. So if this story were totally told from the perspective of the father, or it kind of tries to do a little bit at the father and the people who are the servant class at this party, if that was where we sat in this whole movie, I think this could have been really interesting. But I think in a way, this movie kind of does what it's supposedly criticizing, and that is it stays at the perspective of the entitled white people. So I think that's why this fails.
Yeah, this movie worked for me. The Forgiven, even though I didn't completely fall head over heels for it, what it has to say, yes, it does. I do agree. It takes the point of view from that white privilege perspective, but this is really an attack on them, even though it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that it's really trained on their own, pretty much their journey throughout most of it, and there are moments when it flips to the other side. I think this is one of my favorite performances from Ray Fiennes. He's very, very good in this movie. The barrier for this movie, though, is a lot of the dialogue for The Forgiven is just inane and superficial because the people written. Which one? What?
It feels written. Like I could like there's some parts where I could see the writer sitting there going, writing the line, going, "Oh, that's good," and then they shoot it, and it's like, you should probably cut that line.
No, I mean,
it's clever, but cut that line.
I think it's clever. I thought it was. Yeah, I think in a certain sense you can look at it that way, but for me, the actual actors, the actual people in this movie are so vacuous and ridiculous and silly that the stuff that comes out of their mouth is just a lot of BS a lot of times. Yeah. So it's that the barrier to entry is just dealing with these people for 117 minutes. So I wouldn't actually recommend this movie to most people. But if you are a fan of John Michael McDonagh's previous works, like the aforementioned Cavalry or The Guard, and are kind of on board of what he's trying to do regarding Ray Fiennes' character as far as the period of whether he's going to, the theme of accountability and finding some kind of self-realization appealed to me. And you're setting it in this beautiful Moroccan desert. I was on board. That said, I understand where most people are not going to get on board with The Forgiven because of the superficial stuff that is really intended. But a lot of times it's really tough to watch because you're thinking, I don't want to watch these people say these lines or act this way, and it's just so ridiculous. But what happens to Ray Fiennes' character towards the final act is very dramatic and really cool and resonant, and I love the way the ending. The way the movie wrapped up. I think, for me, not an excellent film, but a recommend if you want something kind of different. And whether or not you think the dialogue is not that great or great, what Eric and I were talking about regarding the dialogue, you might have your own personal opinions. But I think it's in theaters July 8th. But I would say maybe if you're a fan of Jessica Chastain, Ray Fiennes, maybe wait until it hits streaming or on demand. So for me, 3.5 stars. Eric Holmes, your rating on The Forgiven?
I would give this maybe a star.
1 star for The Forgiven.
I mean, like I said, everything about the movie is like the acting, the way they shot it. It's just I think it wasn't even so much the characters. I think there was just nothing there that grabbed me. It was my fault, Greg, Bruce. It was my fault. It was my fault. Greg, it was my fault. It was my fault, Greg. Bruce.
Is that a spoiler? That's not a spoiler, right? Within the context
Maybe
of the movie.
it is.
Right?
Who cares?
Maybe it is. Who cares? Okay. Bruce, your rating on The Forgiven.
2 stars.
2 stars. All right, 2 stars for Bruce. 1 star for Eric Holmes, and I give it a solid recommend over at 3.5 stars for The Forgiven. And I hope you guys over at Cinematics forgive us for this episode, because this Forgiven should have been at the top of the episode. But woe is me. And yeah, what can you say?
You can't say we buried the lead, because
okay.
1 star, 2 stars, 3.5 from 4-star Greg.
Yeah, don't call me 4-star Greg. I am now known as 5-star Greg. I'm trying to give everything 5 stars. So if I gave this movie 3.5 stars, guys, then jump to your own conclusions. Speaking of things to jump to, look, obviously you can listen to Anderson Cowan over at the Film Vault. You can listen to him also on the After Disaster, AndersonCowan.com. There's also Addie's Antiques, Jillian's Facebook Marketplace. Also want to plug for us selfishly on Find Your Film. We are doing a director spotlight this week on filmmaker Jules Dassin. Eric Holmes, tell our listeners what movies are we covering and why you picked Jules Dassin for this week for our director spotlight.
Chose Jules Dassin this week. Words don't like me. We are covering Thieves Highway and Night in the City, and I chose them because I saw those movies and we have not talked about them.
Very good. That is very Ernest Hemingway-esque terse material. I'm just going to say Night in the City is an excellent film, same as Thieves Highway. They are both in black and white. If you want to check out our spotlight on Dassin, please check out our Find Your Film podcast. And if you actually just want to see these movies, they're Criterion films. Eric Holmes has the Criterion DVDs. He purchased them at his local Entertain Mart, but they're also on YouTube. And Bruce, can you endorse the transfer? They look okay, right? On YouTube, both these movies?
They look great. They look really good. And Night in the City is the better uncut gems.
The better uncut gems. Were you being facetious about that? Because that's how I feel. They're both A movies, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, okay. Very, very good.
Yeah,
very good.
Uncut Gems is good, and Night in the City is better.
Yes.
Those are 2 bangers right there. Uncut Gems and Night in the City.
Yes.
Thieves Highway, there's a 3rd banger. Bonus banger right there for you.
Bonus banger. Okay, folks, I've got a lot of editing to do over at Cinematics. We miss you, Anderson Cowan. And thank you, Bruce Perky and Eric Holmes, for joining us.
Potty Mouth Perky and Eric the Bad Talker.
And most importantly, thank you guys, listeners, for checking us out here on this here Cinematics. We'll see you next time. Take care.